Hey guys, and welcome back. So today I'm going to be starting some seeds, and since we've already potted up our cabbage, our cauliflower, things like that out in the greenhouse, I have a bunch more 6-packs that I have. Unfortunately, I am almost out of my seed starting mix, so I'm going to make some more of that real quick. The kids are working on their schoolwork and I just got the baby down for a nap, so let's get to it. So if you missed the video where I talk about what I use for a seed starting mix, a majority of my seed starting mix is about 80% either cocoa bricks or peat moss. And this is the peat moss that I'm using. All right, so I've got all my recording stuff and all my seeds over here. Most of these ones are ones that I have already started, like my peppers, Swiss chard, onions, things like that. So I think what I'm looking for is going to be in this box. There we are. Okay, so I've got all my tomatoes here. I've got some other stuff, scallions. I'm going to start some dill, cilantro, Italian basil, purple basil, Thai basil, echinacea, summer savory. I already have oregano. I don't think I'm going to start that. Peppermint, I might start that. It's almost time to be starting lettuces. Carrots, I will direct sow. I've already started some kale. It's also time to almost start beans and peas. Well, peas first. But these I will be starting probably beginning of March. Same with my scallion onions, just because they grow so fast. All right, let's see. I think I will start my basils. And then echinacea, dill, cilantro. I might wait a little bit on these two. So how many 6-packs is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 more 6-packs. And I think what I'm going to do is probably start my paste tomatoes. Either my paste tomatoes or my slicing tomatoes. I think my paste tomatoes. So I think we're going to start my Jersey Devils and my 2 different types of Romas. So these are the Jersey Devils I have. This is the Roma variety. And then this is the other Roma variety. These ones are from Botanical Interests. These ones are from Oregano Republic, Michigan Gardener, and then Baker Creek. So generally, your slicing tomatoes will take longer to grow. However, I use more of my paste tomatoes, so I'm hoping to get a longer season out of them. So I'm going to start those first. And then at the end of February, I'll start the rest of my tomatoes, the rest of my herbs. And then probably early March, I'll be doing things like my lettuces and my peas. So you can also direct sow peas. I don't personally anymore. I used to. And then I would only get about 50% germination because I realized things like slugs and stuff were getting to them basically as soon as they popped up. Also the birds. So I would plant them along a trellis and the birds would sit on the trellis and they would wait all day until they saw the first little green sprout and they would go down to get it and they'd pull the whole seed and everything right out. So I start them in 6-packs or I start them like my beets in these smaller 72 cell trays just so I have a lot more. And then I transplant them out when they're probably 6 inches tall. So again, my different types of basils, Thai basil, purple basil, Italian basil. And then the other half of this tray will be my paste tomatoes. When I go and start my slicing tomatoes and my other tray of tomatoes, I will start more of these. Again, I use a lot of these, so I want to have a longer season for these than I do my slicing tomatoes. I like my slicing tomatoes for sandwiches and things like that. And like I said, they do take longer to mature and to grow, but I need more of these for my sauces, salsas, things like that. I do also use my slicing tomatoes for salsa. The only difference is my paste tomatoes obviously have less seeds and less juice in the middle, as where my slicing tomatoes have a lot of juice in the middle, so you may have to cook them out longer. You can also use them for sauces and stuff too. By the end of the season, I'm basically using any tomato I have for anything that I'm making. So we use basil. We just haven't been using a ton of it in the past couple years. However, this year my plan is to save up and store a lot of pesto in the freezer. So I'm going to plan and prep for that by planting more of my Italian basil than I will my purple and my Thai basil. My Thai basil I really like to grow just for pho. I really love soup, and that's my favorite soup. So anytime I'm sick, that's what I go to. This is my Italian basil, and I'm gonna sow at least 2 seeds per cell. I can always split these apart when I go and transplant them outside. And again, this Italian basil I'm going to use to store up a lot of pesto in the freezer this year. We really like pesto with our pasta and on pizza and things like that. So I'm going to label that first one and then move on to the next one. Now for the next one, I think I'm going to split up my Thai basil and my purple basil. So I'll do 3 cells of Thai basil and 3 cells of the purple basil. So I'm going to write up my tags first real quick, just so that way I don't forget or get confused before I do them. The purple basil, again, we don't really use a lot of basil, but I like the purple basil just to add that color. Sometimes I'll add it to our pestos. Sometimes I'll put it on pizza when we make pizza. So I'm just going to label these rows real quick before I even open my seed packets so I know what is going where. And I am making just the slightest little indent. I don't want these seeds planted too deep because they are super tiny. And if you haven't seen any of my other videos, I always say a rule of thumb is you want the hole for the seed that you're sowing to be 2 times the depth in size of the seed. So like with your pumpkin seeds that are a lot bigger, those are going to be a lot deeper than you would sow your herb seeds, which are going to be a lot smaller. And again, the same thing. I am just going to put 2 to 3 per cell. These are easy to pull apart. They have a very strong root system. So I am not worried about having to separate them when I transplant them out. And I try and be careful when I'm putting the seeds back in the packet that I'm not doing it over my trays. That way, if one does slip and fall or something happens, I don't just have a random basil plant somewhere. The reason that I continue to plant so much basil, even though I say that I don't use it a lot, is because it is a great companion plant with my tomatoes. So I always plant a bunch out with my tomatoes. All right, and for my Thai basil, again, same thing, 2 to 3 per cell. And that's it for the basil. Next, I am going to do dill. That is another great one. We use a ton of that, especially for things like pickles, but it also is a great companion plant. Dill seeds are super easy to save. I actually have way more than I could ever want or need or plant. However, this company did send me seeds, and because these ones are newer, I am going to plant these. However, if by chance they don't germinate or something goes wrong. Are you trying to help? Do you want to be in the video? I think he thinks I'm talking to him. Like I was saying, if by chance they do not germinate, then I always have the seeds that I saved that I can plant as well. There are some seeds where I only sow 1 per cell, things like peppers, just because there's been years where I've ended up with hundreds of peppers just from double sowing seeds and things like that. Same with flowers. Some of my flowers, I will only do 1 seed just because the roots don't like to be disrupted. As where for here where I'm working with my herbs, the roots are very strong. The root system doesn't care to be disrupted. They have no problem being transplanted. They also have no problem being separated. Now for cilantro, I am only going to do 3 cells of cilantro and then 3 cells of my echinacea. My husband doesn't like cilantro. My daughter and I are the only ones who like cilantro. We eat it in pho, like with the Thai basil. We eat it when we have tacos and stuff like that. But other than that, we don't eat a ton of it. So I'm just going to do 3 cells, 2 seeds per cell. Again, I am going to be planting these a little deeper because unlike the basil, the seeds are quite a bit larger. The seeds are actually coriander. So if you grow cilantro and you let it go to seed, you can save the seeds for coriander, and then you have your own herbs. So you grew both cilantro and coriander for your herb drawer or your shelf or whatever you prefer. All right, and last but not least for this 6-pack, doing the 3 seeds per cell per 6-pack with the cilantro, the Thai basil, the purple basil, and the echinacea actually saved me 2 extra 6-packs for these, which again, I use a lot of tomatoes, so I'm super happy about that. Just like with the cilantro seeds, these seeds are a lot larger, so my holes are going to be a little bit deeper than what they were for the things like basil. This is another super easy to save seed. The flowers are beautiful. A lot of things like the echinacea, when I am saving seeds, I will just cut them when they're slightly past. So as the flower starts to die off a little, I'll just clip it off and I will put the whole flower head right into a paper bag and let it dry that way. And then in a couple of months, you can give them a good shake. Things like onions as well, onion flowers. You just give them a good shake. Snapdragons are the same way, petunias. Again, you might have to squeeze the flower pod a little bit or the seed pod a little bit to get the seeds out. But I find that if I just clip a bunch of them, put them in a paper bag and give them a good shake a couple months later, all the seeds are at the bottom of the paper bag. So it's very convenient doing it that way. I know this video is super random. This is just like a plant with me and random comments that I have about the things that I'm growing. Yes, my YouTube channel is for me to share with you guys about the things that I'm doing and the progress that I'm making, as well as the progress that the garden is making as it grows. But it's also for me to look back on. But I find that the long form content that I create here versus the short form content that I create over on Instagram or the photos that I take over on Instagram, with the long form content, I can look back on things like when I'm starting seeds and what I'm starting and how they grew and things like that much better and document much better and in more detail versus what I post over there. So that is why I am putting so much energy and effort into my YouTube channel this year. Let's get started on the tomatoes because, again, this is the best part. Well, this is one of the best parts. Peppers are also really great, which my peppers are doing really good back there. I am going to have to pot them up in probably another couple weeks because they are already... You excited? I'm excited. We're going to have to pot up those peppers pretty soon because they're getting their second set of leaves. Comment down below and let me know what your favorite variety of paste tomato is. All right, so before we start these tomatoes, I just want to go over a couple things. There are 3 different types of tomatoes. So you're going to have your indeterminate, which means that they're more of a vine. They will continue to grow throughout the season and grow in height. You're going to have your determinate, which means you're going to have your ones that grow to a specific height or around a specific height and will usually produce all their fruit all at once. And then you have your semi-determinate. So those are in between those two. And they may continue to grow or they may stop growing at a specific height and then they may produce fruit throughout the season or they may produce it all at once. Again, those are going to be in between the other two. The Jersey Devil, the reason that these have surpassed my Roma varieties for me in paste tomatoes is because these are indeterminate, they will continue to grow, and I will get a harvest from these right up until our first frost date, all the way into October, November. Last year, my Jersey Devils actually grew up over my arch, taller than me, so they were easily 8 feet tall. And the size of the tomato is probably twice the size of the Romas that I grow. I know a lot of people love Roma tomatoes, or another great one is Amish paste tomatoes. I've actually never grown those, but I know people have really great success with those. So I am just going to start with these Jersey Devil seeds. I will probably plant mostly Jersey Devil tomatoes. Out of all the tomatoes I grow, this will probably be the tomato that I grow the most of. I am doing 2 seeds per cell. I can always separate them when I transplant them or when I pot them up. Usually I do end up potting up my tomatoes just because they do get big pretty fast before they're allowed to go outside. And because I planted the Jersey Devils from Michigan Gardener last year, I am going to do 3 6-packs of the Jersey Devil from Baker Creek and 1 6-pack of the Jersey Devil from Michigan Gardener, just so I can see if there is a difference based on how they grow. All right, so that's the first 3 6-packs of the Baker Creek Jersey Devil tomatoes done. And then I'm going to do 1 6-pack of the Michigan Gardener. We are expected to get a huge storm, I think on Wednesday or maybe this weekend. So we may actually have to start heating the greenhouse at least for a couple of days because I think the temps are supposed to get down to like 10 degrees, 8 degrees. We are supposed to get snow. We've had more snow this year since I've lived here in the past 7 years. I feel like I moved from Maine to southern Maine. So when I label these, I do like to, again, keep track of the different companies that I plant seeds from sometimes, especially things that I plant regularly. I know I'm going to continue to plant Jersey Devil tomatoes. So when I label these 3 6-packs, I'm going to label them with a B on them. I'm going to write Jersey Devil B, so that way I know they came from Baker Creek. And then when I label this one, I'm going to label it Jersey Devil M, so I know that one came from Michigan Gardener. And same thing, when I pot them up, I will keep an eye on the tags and I will keep them tagged correctly. That way I can see once they get planted out this year if a specific company does better or is more pest resistant or produces a lot more fruit than the other. That way I will continue to purchase from that company. All right, now for my Roma varieties. So I'm going to plant 2 6-packs of each of these, and when I label them, I'm just going to make sure that I label the ones from Botanical Interest as Supremo variety, and then the other ones I'll just label normal Roma. And again, I'm telling you guys this, not just to tell you guys how I label things and how I keep track of things, but this is going to be great for me to look back on versus, again, just a photo on Instagram. Yes, I could put all this in the caption, but are people really going to read it? And am I really going to remember which caption contains all the information that's going to be good for me to look back on? I'm really using my YouTube channel this year as kind of a garden journal and a journal for our animals. If you didn't know, we recently had a baby goat, so I will link that up in the corner and you guys can go check that out. We're still waiting on one more mama to have babies, but let's get these tomatoes planted. Another reason that I'm comfortable putting 2 seeds per cell for my tomatoes versus some of my other things like peppers is I find that, yes, I can sell my peppers or I can donate them to my local food bank if I have a ton of extras. However, they don't seem to sell as well as my tomatoes do. So if I have extra tomatoes and I list them on Facebook Marketplace, they're gone within 20 minutes of me listing them. All right, I'm gonna get that first batch of Roma tomatoes from Oregano Republic labeled, and then I'm gonna move on to the ones from Botanical Interest. So the Botanical Interest seeds, I've noticed a good amount of them come in these smaller packets. As you can see, I just did that. Usually, in my experience, when I've bought seeds previously, the ones that come in the smaller packs are usually pelleted. However, I've gotten quite a few in these smaller packs from Botanical Interest that are not pelleted. How many seeds are supposed to be in this? 10 seeds. Okay, so I guess I will not be sowing 2 seeds per cell with these because there's not a lot of seeds. So that's all the seeds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I did get 11 seeds. All right, I did get 11 seeds. It says that it comes with 10 seeds. So I did get all but 1 cell sown, and then I'm going to label these ones Roma Supremo. All right, guys, I think that's it, and I hope you enjoyed this very random video, and as always, I will keep you guys updated and bring you along with me as these continue to grow. I'm going to get these underneath the grow light, and I will see you next video. Thanks for watching.